Hello everyone, I'm Best Friend Skull, and welcome back to Risk of Rain. Today we'll check out the item log a little. These are all the items that we got in our last playthrough. They have little blurbs for each of them, and we'll be going over those in our own special way later on. Same for the monster logs. There's one for each monster, except for one monster that for some reason doesn't have one, but I'll go over that when we get to that. Here's what the Select Survivor menu looks like. As you can see, all that we have is the Commando right now, and it gives you a little detail on how he works and all that good stuff. In any case, without further ado, let's get this stuff started. So in the last video, I sort of forgot to go over the controls. We move with the arrow keys as normal, and then we have 4 different abilities for each class. As you can see down at the bottom, there's a level, and then beside that are 4 little squares. Those indicate what those abilities are. I just used what is known as a V attack and then an X attack directly there afterwards. X attacks have a tendency to be kind of crowd clearers, in a way, while V attacks tend to be your sort of power move. Your Z attack is your regular basic attack, and your C attack usually isn't even an attack, it's actually more of a mobility tool. In the case of the Commando, we have the dodge roll. For the X attack, we have the Full Metal Jacket, which is a piercing shot that faces directly forwards. And for V, we have Suppressive Fire, which is just a multi-shot attack. For the Z, we have just a double tap. It just shoots twice, it doesn't do very much damage, it's just essentially your average I am shooting you attack. As such, we have a bit of a unique thing with the Commando. You may notice in a little bit down there, there's a pair of little glasses. Those are what's known as the Lensmaker's Goggles. They give you an increased critical range, going up to 10%. Due to the way that the Commando works, the Commando has several hits to him. The Suppressive Fire does 6 hits, his regular attack has 2. And as such, he is really, really synergistic with items that'll have a chance of doing something when you hit something. So I'm gonna go for the Lensmaker's Goggles right now, because they have a chance to do double damage, and considering the fact that we hit a lot, that can be extremely helpful. As you can also see down there, we have a health bar and then a little bar and a level. Characters in this game get experience just by opening containers or killing things. Experience doesn't matter nearly as much as items do, but it still is kind of your basic way of getting better. All characters in the game have 4 basic stats. They are actually invisible, but we have, data mined a little bit to find them. In this case, it's always health, damage, armor, and regen. The health is just your maximum health. It goes up and scales with your level. Damage is your base damage. There are no items in the game that will increase your damage or your armor. At least not without some sort of wacky conditional. Take, for example, the crowbar we got a little earlier. The crowbar increases your damage if the enemy you are attacking has more than 80% of its health. You may also have noticed earlier, when we looked at the Commando's little page, how certain attacks said that they dealt a percentage of damage. The base damage is the damage that he has according to his level. So take, for example, the double tap, which twice over deals 60% of his base damage. That's relatively obvious. It calculates 60% of whatever damage that he has at the time, and then deals out that amount of damage. But here we have our first monster log. Monster logs are neat little things that are essentially just informational tidbits on the flavor of the monsters that you'll encounter. We'll be going over them in a relatively unique way later on that I'll detail at the end of this Now, here we have the teleporter again, but this time I'm going to activate it as soon as I see it. I don't always necessarily recommend that, as sometimes it can essentially screw you over. But currently speaking, we're level 60, we've got some decent damage-dealing items, admittedly no healing items, which is actually going to wind up being a problem later on. And all that it spawned was the Colossus. The Colossus is seriously the easiest boss, aside from maybe another one we'll face later on. All that he does is walk towards you and stomp and clap his hands. He'll spawn some rock golems, and that's really the only thing about him that is a real threat, particularly to the commando who can just keep his distance and just let him have his fun. Now, we have 90 seconds on the timer right now. In Monsoon difficulty, that increases to 120, meaning you have to spend 2 minutes with everything essentially going to hell around you. It's not fun. Well, actually, it is a lot of fun. You might notice that I'm sort of standing still right now. That's because I'm letting my drones take care of those Lemurians while I take care of those things, just essentially to keep me safe from going into a hell pit of lizards. You may also notice that we're having a bit of an easier time this time around than we did last time. This is because this time around I activated the teleporter early. I activated it when it was only, like, about 5 minutes in. A little bit less, in fact. And even though I was level 9 last time around, and this time I'm level 8, I was able to get my bearings together a little bit quicker. Now you might notice that Lemurian down there, and how I'm completely ignoring him. Well, this is one of the main uses of the disposable missile launcher to me. I'll just launch it off. And he's dead. No matter what with moves, or abilities and items such as the disposable missile launcher, the homing items, they will always find their target and they will always kill it. Thus why I like to use it to kind of finish off the last enemy in a lot of cases. Now you may notice that I wandered off the beaten path a little bit there. Due to the fact that I'm still on easy, it's only about 6.5 minutes in, I figured I had time to go back, grab those items, and come back around. But, without further ado, let's head on to the next level. I really love the music for this place. It's so serene and calm and... Oh, hi. I think here is where I'm going to start going a little bit into monsters, because we're going to start running into a lot of different ones now. These are parents. Parents are gigantic, and they hurt a lot if they hit you, but they're relatively easy to dodge, and their gigantic hitbox makes them really, really vulnerable to ranged attacks. They also are susceptible to knockback. Oh, look, the teleporter. Why not? So here we have the Magma Worm again. I already talked about how he works. Goes up, tackles you, comes and he's a relatively hard boss to deal with as the commando. But because of the fact that we've been making progress so much more quickly than we did the last time around, he's going to be a significantly easier enemy. We're almost at the same level that we were before, and it's a full 2 minutes before the last time that we activated the teleporter. Thus, he's going to be a little bit easier to take care of. Admittedly, we now have children and parents to deal with that are a lot harder than Lemurians and rock golems. Although we also have rock golems to deal with as well. Children are very much alike to Lemurians, but they're a lot stronger, they move more quickly, and are just generally harder to deal with. You may wonder why it is that I decided to just go on ahead and activate the teleporter immediately. In truth, that's not always the best idea. Sometimes it will wind up starving you for money, and items. But right now, due to the difficulty and the time that I started the level, I figure that I'm probably well enough off that I can make my way through this and get enough items out of this level to get on to the next one without too much trouble. I should probably talk a little bit about the chests and how they work. The expense of a chest goes up with your time. So last level, they were 25. This level, they're 82. So it's not a small amount that they go up, either. But we killed the Magma Worm, so that's a positive. And what we just got was a Leeching Seed and a Boxing Glove. The Boxing Gloves and the Leeching Seed are both excellent items for the Commando. As I said before, he hits a lot, but not for much. So with the Leeching Seed, that heals you by 2 every time you hit something, his Suppressive Fire will make him heal 12, and his regular attack will make him heal 4. Now, the Leeching Seed has a bit of a funny interaction with area of effect attacks. For, say, the Commando's Full Metal Jacket, the front-facing piercing shot, it will heal him based on the amount of things that he hits with it, but not as much, and it has a cap. As you can see right there, I hit 2 things with it, but I only healed 3. You'd think that would make me heal 4. It is a cap of 4 with an AoE attack, and if it only hits 2 things, it will go for 3. Now, I'm gonna go over here and collect these things because, as I said before, the Lensmaker's glasses, I called them goggles before, but the glasses, are an incredible item for this character, and we just got 2 in a row. Fucking right. Haha. Now, I'm gonna take a little bit of downtime here to just quickly go over the items that we got before. What we got down there are a crowbar, which I said before, the Lensmaker's goggles, the head stompers that turn you a little bit into Mario. They make it so that when you hit the ground, based upon how far you've fallen, you will deal out damage to whatever you may land on. We also got life savings, which makes you just passively gain gold over time. An energy cell, which allows you to have an increased attack speed when you are at low health. Tough times, which reduces the damage you take by 14%. The Will-o'-the-Wisp, which makes enemies have a chance of exploding when they die. And the Boxing Glove, which makes it so that every time you hit something, it has a chance of just flying backwards. You may also notice that items stack in this game. They're not like in Binding of Isaac, where any item that... you can't get like 2 Polyphemus, or something like that. Instead, in this game, they can stack up, but they don't stack in ways that make sense all of the time. And by not make sense, I essentially mean they don't change everything that they're supposed to. Take, for example, the Will-o'-the-Wisp. It has a 33% chance of making the things explode for 500% of your base damage. When you get 2 of it, all that it does is increase the damage. It's still 33%. There's also a few that are a tidbit buggy. For example, the Lensmaker's glasses, they're supposed to increase your chances by 10% every time. Why isn't this guy dead? They're supposed to increase your chance by 10% every time to get a critical hit. Instead, they kind of switch between 10 and 7 for some reason. Once we get around to doing the item log video, I will put down what each item does when it stacks. Now, I'm about to do something here. I'm going to invest all of my money into this shrine. Even though your money does turn into experience when you go on, it's probably better to spend it legitimately any way you can. In any case, welcome to the Sunken Tombs. So much of the music in this game is so calming. Here we have a new enemy, the Whorl. The Whorls are slow, and they shoot you with a little laser. Here we have another new enemy, a sand crab. Sand crabs are actually a legitimate threat. They can't jump, but they can cross relatively large gaps just by walking. And then we have another new enemy. That's a black imp. Black imps are my single most hated enemy in this entire game. Simply due to the fact that they can teleport. There we go. He teleported, and then he exploded. That's the best kind of teleporting. Black imps are essentially what usually will kill me, because when they get into a swarm, they'll just teleport at you one after another, after another, after another, and make it impossible to get away. Whorls are okay. They give a lot of money. They're a nice thing. Sand crabs are essentially like an upgraded version of the rock golem. They come towards you relatively slowly, and then they hit you for a large quantity of damage. Right now I'm wondering if it's worth it to kill that black imp. I decided it was not. Now here's a disadvantage of the boxing gloves. That just knocked him down there, and now I have to go all the way down there to kill him. Eh. Now I want to talk a little bit here about shrines. Shrines, these shrines at least, always are a little bit less expensive than a chest on their first time being used. They go up relatively quickly there afterwards. I believe it might be exponential. The thing is that, to me, this makes them worth it to quickly get, like, one investment out of. Here we have another new enemy, the Clayman. Claymen are probably my second most hated enemy in the game. They charge towards you, they're extremely fast, they can jump, and they can't cross gaps, fortunately, but they can roll, and this doesn't make them immune, but does give them a burst of speed, and it makes them incredibly annoying. Fortunately enough, we just got an item called the Infusion. The Infusion, to me, is one of the best items in the game. Every time you kill something, it increases your maximum health by 1. It's better to get it earlier, but honestly at any point, aside from like right when you're about to go off and beat the game, it is really useful. Right here we have a new type of drone, but I'm not gonna get it yet because I can't afford it. These are an expensive drone. These drones are known as a laser drone, and when I get it, I will explain what it does. In the meantime, we got the Guardian's Heart, which is I'm very grateful for. Right now, I'm having some issues, I think, with health, with keeping myself alive, and the Guardian's Heart is essentially just a shield. It recharges over time. It'll go off in a second here. There it goes. And it essentially just gives you some temporary HP, and then it recharges afterwards. One of our drones just died, and as you can see by the exclamation point that was above that guy's head, he was about to too. And when a drone dies, you have to pay to repair it, and it's a lot more expensive than the first time. And here we have the easiest boss in the game. The Wandering Vagrant is... oh. There's 2 of them. Okay, now it's a problem. The Wandering Vagrant is not very likely to hit you. It will send out those weird little orb things. I'm just going to give it a second to do that. There it goes. And those will home in on your current location when they are launched towards you, not when they're launched out of it. One of the primary issues I have with it is that it absorbs a lot of damage and goes directly for you. This is why I'm not turning around and using suppressive fire at all, is because all that it would wind up doing is having the Wandering Vagrant absorb the whole damn thing, and nothing behind it would get hit. Because of that, I'm instead opting to just run away and shoot out a Full Metal Jacket every now and then, and just pick away at their health, while also picking away at the health of everything else. And this is also when the Claymen and the Black Imps become exceptionally aggravating. The Black Imps will teleport towards you, and the Claymen will charge towards you with that roll of theirs, making it very difficult to dodge them consistently. Fortunately enough, I have that. It's times like these that having a boxing glove comes in very handy. It will allow you to keep your distance on them and just make sure that they don't obliterate you. Now, we just got the laser drone. The laser drone, in my opinion, is probably the best drone in the game for ranged characters. it fires out a laser every couple of seconds that pierces through enemies, and does a pretty good chunk of damage. It is extremely expensive, but it is almost always worth it for any character, not even melee characters. And in a little bit here, I believe we're about to get an achievement. There it is. We have just unlocked our first new character, the Enforcer. We'll be taking a look at him, I'm sure, very soon. Every time that you get a new character, one of those little thingamajigs appears, little escape pods. I kind of find it's a neat little bit of flavor to think of the character you just unlocked just having landed from the crashed ship. Now, right here we have a bit of a problem. For one, I've forgotten if there's anything left over here. As it turns out there is. But also down there, there is a swarm of Clayman waiting to come out, grab us, and, well, do the thing that Claymen do. So, I'm going to have to deal with that, and my method of dealing with it is going to be the disposable missile launcher. It's the only use item I've got, so it's the one I'm going to use. We also, just a little while ago, got a red item. I should probably go over item rarities. There are 5 item rarities in the game. There's white, which is essentially common, green, which is uncommon, red, which is rare, orange, which is use, and then yellow, which is unique. Red items are the ones you're going to come across the second least frequently. Yellow items are unique items that only drop from bosses some of the time. And they tend to have very unique abilities. So as you can see, I dealt with that little problem relatively easily. The red item we got is the repulsion armor. There's now those little weird orb things around us. Every time we get hit, one of those will fill up. Once 6 of them are filled, we become almost immune to damage for 6 seconds. This is what red items are like. Red items are almost always extraordinarily powerful. As such, it makes sense that they're the hardest to get. And this was just mean. Just waste my time by making me have to go up here, where you just spawn some enemies. I'm actually going to quickly go over teleporters and how they work now. Oh, never mind. Oh. We got another character. Oh, look, it has this little hat, too. So, the way that teleporters work is that when you activate them, any enemy that is off-screen at the time that you activate them will despawn. Because of that, whoa. Well, we just got 2 repulsion armors. Not bad. Because of the fact that it despawns all the other enemies, it makes it so that the remaining enemies count at the end is only the enemies that have spawned since you hit the thing or that were on screen when you hit the thing. So, now we're off to the 4th level. This music again. So far as I know, this is the only track in the game that repeats, aside from the boss tracks, for when you activate the teleporter, and I don't know, I'm okay with that. I really like the awkward serenity, even though you're sitting here murdering masses of things. Now, you might notice that guy's blue, and I'm sure that those of you that haven't played the game have been curious what that means. Different colored enemies are known as elites. The color that they are determines their kind of unique elite abilities. In that case, that guy was blue. Blue enemies, when you're near them, will shock you and deal a bit of electric damage. They also have a little bit of health extra in comparison to their normal counterparts. They also will drop more damage, and we now have a new boss. The Imp Overlord. Remember how I said I hated the black imps? I am totally fine with the Imp Overlord. Oddly enough, even though he's supposed to be the biggest one of probably my most hated enemy in the entire game, he is really simple to deal with in most cases. primarily due to the fact that he's one of the few bosses that can be stunned. Normally, if I were to use suppressive fire on, say, the Colossus, or the Wandering Vagrant, or the Magma Worm, it would damage them, but it wouldn't stun them like it does with regular enemies. The Imp Overlord actually can be stunned, and as such, that makes him very easy to, if he's alone, stun lock. Also, yes, we did just get a use item out of a container. That starts to happen later on in the game, considering that we're now on insane difficulty. Due to the fact that currently he's not alone, he can actually be a pretty serious problem. He will deal a lot of damage to you all at one time if you let him. So I'm essentially trying to get a one-up on him as far as positioning goes, so that I can come in from the side and clear out all the little extra guys, the parents and so forth, that are around him, and get to him directly so I can take care of him with relative ease. He, like most bosses, and particularly the Colossus, has only 2 attacks, and then some form of mobility thing. He can teleport, just like his smaller counterparts, but he also has a multi-hitting, like, beat the hell out of you claw attack, and then a strange laser that, for one reason or another, I never seem to get hit by, even if I think I'm within the hitbox of it. It's got a weird thing to it. Now, as you can plainly see, we're having actually a pretty easy time with stuff at this point. Things are dying relatively quickly, they're giving us a lot of money, and this is what happens when you progress through the game at a rate that is relatively appropriate. Currently speaking, we're only about 25 minutes in, and we're level 14 and have almost a full row of items, never mind the pure quantity of them that we've had. Shit. Oh. Oh, that's frustrating. Let's try it again. Okay. Oh, you dick. Oh, screw you two, then. So, we got an achievement. I'm a little ashamed. I'm not ashamed, but a little disappointed. Because I just failed a shrine 7 times in a row. Oh well. At least I'll be able to take out my frustration on the Imp Overlord a little bit. So, currently speaking, that laser drone of ours has been doing a lot more than it seems like it has. It's been doing insane amounts of damage to everything. It's essentially like having an extra full metal jacket go off every now and then. There would be the claw attack I was referring to. And here's the laser thing. No idea why that almost never hits me. Now, a little earlier I was doing a little jumping thing, where I was jumping and shooting. That is essentially how to tack damage onto stuff while moving. Because whenever you attack in this game, you will stop in place. At this point, I'm just sort of tanking damage, I don't even care. You do stop in place whenever you move, and as such, jumping and shooting is basically your way of maintaining a forward momentum while still attacking. But, with that over with, we're all done with this area. On to the next, I suppose. Welcome to the Temple of the Elders. And welcome to impossible difficulty as well. The Temple of the Elders is one of the few that has a relatively stable method of generation. It will always have this weird little fortress off to the left. And it will always have a kind of cliff off to the right. So, generally speaking, this level is a little easier to adapt to than most. Unfortunately, it also introduces a new enemy. Those flying buggers. These are known as archer bugs. Archer bugs do not take much damage. To kill. They don't deal out much damage, but they will always come in swarms, and they will always deal crap tons of damage to your drones, no matter what you do. And it's aggravating as hell. Over here we have an Elder Lemurian. An Elder Lemurian will do this whenever it gets near you. Don't be there. Just don't be in that thing's hitbox. It will always hurt, no matter what. Whether it'll hit your drones and deal a shit ton of damage to them, or hit you and pretty much kill off half your health in one attack. Right here we have another new enemy. And we also just got an achievement. Reach 650 health, and you get that thing. This enemy here is a Temple Guard. Temple Guards are pretty much the most irritating enemy that is new in the temple, while the armored bugs, archered bugs, are always going to be dealing a shit ton of damage to your drones and so forth. The Temple Guards will be dealing a lot of damage to you. And the main problem with them is that while they're easy to dodge, because all that they do is that thing, and it marks where it is for you, unless you're on Monsoon. If you're on Monsoon, then that marker goes away. Even though it marks where it is for you and everything, it is still really difficult to dodge when there are 100 of them coming at you at the same time, and they also can use a defensive ability and increase their defense. And right here is when we have a recording issue. This issue is now resolved, but essentially FRAPS really doesn't like this game every now and then, and will cause it to crash down to next to no FPS and then stop responding. So at this point I started to panic, so if you see any weird issues with how this is recorded, then that's me restarting the recording to try and get it to go back up. I believe that's about to happen right about now-ish. Apparently I did that first. Yeah. Deus Ex frame rate problems. No duh, it wasn't my time to die. So, this issue has been resolved now. I'm using a different recording program. But I still think we made enough progress there, aside from that last little bit, to justify an update. So now, I'd like to go over a little bit of how the rest of this thread is going to go. So now that we have 3 classes, I want to open up the thread a little bit, so a little bit of thread participation. From here on out, for each individual update, you get to pick who it is that I play. For now, we have the Commando, our tried and true. The Enforcer, a shield-wielding, shotgun-firing, essentially a riot guard. He's interesting, to say the least. And the Bandit. Nothing quite like a space cowboy. Very much meant to be your damage-focused guy. And in the next update, depending on which one of these interests the thread the most, I'll play any of the 3. Now, the other thing that I want to open up a little bit is the fact that I plan on doing something a little bit interesting with the item logs. I'll show you one real quick. Let's just go for the meat nugget. As you can see, it tells you a little bit about the thing. Estimated delivery, but is sent to this address. It's formed like shipping details, and it gives you a quick order description and the shipping method. The shipping method actually is a coded way of telling you its rarity. And then the order details. What I want for this thread is that I don't want to be reading these off myself or just put them in a screenshot or anything like that, because that's just boring. What I want to do is I want you guys to help me out a little and just read off the order details. Get into a character as whoever the hell sent this meat nugget to a pet monk. What the hell is a pet monk? And you'll find in the OP of the thread, there's a little link to a form to fill out. Nothing intimidating in there, it's just essentially how I can get in contact with you, and then I will do so as soon as I possibly can. And with that, I will see you in the next update, when we either go all Wild West, keep the peace, or just shoot a bunch of stuff again. I'll see you then. I'll see you then. I'll see you then. I'll see you then.